And so let's say that you've had the introduction and you have written an MOU. What would be the expectations of follow-up from the partner organization?
So is this before the MOU is agreed upon, or you've written the MOU and both parties agree?
I would say after you've written the you've written the
After,
you've written the MOU and then you send it off to whomever. What do they do with it? What are the expectations? What are the next steps after?
okay, so really the ideal way, and maybe I'm misunderstanding the question, but the ideal way of getting to a formed MOU is negotiating back and forth for what gets in the MOU and the common good. So using an example of Kansas State University, we have a template, a sample MOU that's about a page and a little bit. This really has generalized language such as, mutual desire to promote activities between our two universities or two institutions. And then it might state some activities in a very general way. And then state if there's anything else that needs to be decided, it'll be in a different agreement. Say you send that off and the other entity is interested in kind of the mutual desire or promoting of activities, but maybe they say, we're really not interested in research. We're much more interested in having students get together. We're interested in having your students on our campus and our students. At that point, you're gonna have to modify your MOU a little bit, work with, it is, while it's an introduction, it is an agreement to the common good, and a common good that they see is exchange of students. If you also think that's a common good, then you would modify your MOU in a little bit, see if you both agree on the purpose, and then from that point, get it signed by the entities. And then you can work on the details of, okay, how best do we admit a student from our new partner institution or new relationship institution? How do they admit our students? How do we promote this opportunity?
So there's
and
a lot of back and forth.
There can be a lot of back and forth, and some entities like more specifics. Some entities are okay with a little more ambiguity, and then they get to the specifics in other kinds of agreements. I can tell you some entities need an MOU to go for different kinds of funding from other sources, and so they're okay with pretty general MOUs. And then once they go for the funding and the research project or funding project itself will define the activities. And so they just, they need or we would need an MOU as kind of proof that you have some sort of relationship or desire to have some sort of relationship with another party. And so MOUs can be used for those purposes and are all the time. And then really the funding source or the other agency that might be involved sees that as the party's intent to have an agreement and that you've been talking and not just an email or a statement that I did talk to somebody over there and they're really interested in the same project.
And so an MOU, say for Kansas State, would that be something that you would sign? Is it something the provost signs? Is it something the president of the university signs? What level does that go to?
For our particular university, general MOUs that cover more than one unit, more than one college. So we are at Kansas State divided into the different colleges, arts and science, engineering, agriculture. It would go to the top entity. So in this case, our MOUs are signed, our institutional MOUs are signed by the president. Now, we take a step back, say our animal health, our veterinary medicine wants to have a relationship with a different an animal health clinic outside the US, they may, and we would assist them, design an MOU in order to get to the next stage of more agreements. The dean, so the ultimate authority over that college, would sign that MOU, because it means that their entity is really interested in this kind of mutual arrangement, where our architect dean probably has no interest. So it wouldn't rise to an institutional level. But that's just kind of the way Kansas State is organized. And other entities might have different kinds of organization as to who signs it. But generally, it's the person from the organization, if it's an organization, that says, yes, as an organization, we would like to have this relationship.
So I'm curious, what's the longest, maybe you've written an MOU and then the longest time before the next thing happens? Is it 6 months? Is it a year?
Really depends. I am guessing at Kansas State because I know I've been here 5 years, and there have been times that somebody has come and said, we've had an MOU and nothing has happened since I've been here. So it's 3 or 4 years have taken place before then something happens. So I can definitely say it's been, that time frame. And that's why some organizations demand, or again, it's not a legally binding by a U.S. court or any kind of a court document, but some entities like to have a deadline or timeline on their MOUs to say, this MOU, if nothing happens and no other further agreements or other kinds of activities happen under this MOU in the next 3 years, we would consider this MOU ended. And then you'd go through another process to start another MOU. Our feeling at Kansas State right now is for our very general MOU, which is really kind of a letter of intent. We want to do some things mutually. We don't exactly know how the activities and what resources we might have at any given time to do it. So we've kept our MOUs pretty open-ended if the other party is agreeable to that. So that it may be that it didn't work out at first, but then faculty or a student group or others have an interest later. We can at least have a starting place, and we can say we've had some agreements, but it didn't go much further than the MOU. And so let's go back to the MOU, ask them if they're still interested, and take it on from there. And then some MOUs go amazingly fast, especially the ones for funding sources, and they get funding. So we have several European Union grants and other grants where they needed evidence of a relationship with the entity in order to submit for funding. The MOU is evidence. They got funding within the 30, 60, 90 days and started the activities straight away.
Yeah. Well, Grant, thank you so much for talking with me about MOUs.
Thank you.
I learned more
the exciting world
knew.
of memorandum of understandings. As I said, some you might hear MOAs, memorandums of agreements, and some people even just call it letters of intent, because some people say an MOU is an agreement to have a more specific agreement. That's maybe a little cynical, but that's what some people have said about MOUs.
Oh, well.
So.